Good morning, everyone. I'm sure we'll still have more participants joining in, but let's begin. I'm Sharnita and I work with the JobsForHer team. The global lockdown has proved to the corporate world that remote working is possible and also highly productive. To enable companies to increase their diversity recruitment, JobsForHer has organized a masterclass with Annu Mathew, Director Recruiting Cerner Corporation, on how the COVID crisis can help correct the diversity imbalance. Well, I take this opportunity to introduce Annu Mathew. She's a director of recruiting and focuses on talent acquisition for India by devising recruiting strategies to attract, engage, and retain talent in line with Cerner's human capital needs since 2013. She leads areas of technical and non-technical recruiting, executive recruiting, campus programs, diversity and referral programs, and recruiting marketing. With about 20 years of experience in human resources, Annu started her career in recruiting and account management and then moved on to take roles in HR business partner, HR center of expertise, HR operations and shared services. Before Cerner, she's worked with MNCs such as Accenture, MetLife, and Indian startups like Naukri and IBS Software. She's been a global professional in human resources, certified by the HR Certification International. She's a research scholar pursuing her fellow program in management in human resources at St. Xavier School of Management, XLRI Jamshedpur, and as a researcher has journal publication and book chapters to her credit. Her chapters on informal mentoring and role modeling have been published in management books by Palgrave Macmillan. Her research interests are individual careers, career management and development, recruiting and job search, and gender and diversity in organizations. Annu is an active participant in recruiting and HR leadership forums and has several articles published on talent acquisition and careers. Currently based out of Bangalore, Annu stays with her husband and 2 daughters. Annu is a member of St. George Orthodox Sunday School in Indranagar and is currently the headmistress of St. George Orthodox Sunday School.
A warm welcome to everybody, and on my personal behalf and on behalf of Cerner that I represent, I want to welcome everybody and also thanking JobsForHer for giving me this opportunity. Now, one of the things that we are facing today, especially today's revolution, is actually known as the 4th Industrial Revolution. Now, why is it called 4th Industrial Revolution? It's because of the revolution which is dominated by internet. That's what it is actually known as, the internet revolution or the 4th Industrial Revolution, and or the digital revolution. And I think this has been the message that we've been hearing all throughout our last year and this year. So the digital revolution is actually paving way for a lot of changes that's happening in the workplace and workforce. Now, the nature of work, as you've seen, there's a lot of automation, digitization that's happening. The workplaces is actually going to be distributed, and there's so many different types of it's not physical location anymore. It can be virtual, it can be distributed. Anything is possible in the workplace. And also workforce is also a very big area that is actually undergoing a change, and I will explain why workforce is actually going through this change. So that is what is the what do you call it, the characteristics of this digital revolution, and that actually calls for how to just to understand how the work is also getting transformed. So if you look at this is actually a depiction from HR 4.0, which is shaping the people strategies in the 4th Industrial Revolution, an article that's published by one of the leading research organizations. So what it actually talks about is the forces that shape the future of work are task disruptions. There's going to be a lot of changes in the way we do things. The skills are actually going to be very, very different. The business models, I think, if the organizations that you represent, or if you look at the ecosystem that you operate in, or if you follow the news as well, you will know that business use everywhere there's a change in the business model, because we are actually grappling with changes we've not experienced, and hence business models are changing. Distributed workforces. So you are actually looking at a lot of people, lot different types of workforce that's actually coming into the workplace. The demographics is changing. The age, gender, affiliations, everything is actually location, geography, everything is actually changing. And moreover, finally, there's a societal expectation from the workers are also changing. So these are the core elements of what the future of work is actually going to be driven by. And what does that mean is that there's a lot of innovation and speed that is required. There is so much of automation that will come into place. There is a lot of skilling and reskilling that will become the need of the hour. And focusing specifically on today's topic is workplaces will be inclusive of all genders, race, religious affiliations, identities, cultures, and physical abilities. And the other key important thing is there's so much of importance to the personalized worker concept. Now, what does that mean? It is that you are an individual, you have a specialized skill, one or two specialized skills, and you will actually be demanding what you want to work on, where do you want to work on, and that's how your skills are going to be tracked in the entire world of work. So that is what the workplace and work environment ecosystem is today. And in that ecosystem is what we, is what the experience of COVID is actually coming to us. So when COVID has actually hit us, which is a pandemic which the world never experienced, there is a lot of changes that is actually happening at the individual level and at the organization's level. And I just want to take you through some of these things. Just a little bit of understanding of what this means. So look at the threat perception. So, it is a global crisis. There are so many things that's happening, and the large scale behavioral changes are happening with respect to threat perception. So now look at threats per se. Now, what were, earlier we especially if you look at the bubonic plague per se, it actually happened, and, European population was impacted, and we talk about other, issues like smallpox. All of those were issues that actually was happening at a point in time where the world was not of this size and scale, and also the challenges were very, very different. So in this environment of a pandemic like this, there is, how are people likely to perceive threat and risk? That is very, very important. If you look at everybody's life, how much of worry did you have on, from a pandemic standpoint ever in your life? The way your emotions started responding, the way the society started prejudicing certain things and discriminating certain group of ideas and beliefs, and then panic is another emotion, another behavior that actually evolved, that, the panic buying that we saw of people just hoarding things. So if you look at it, threat per se is the first of its kind that we've been experiencing. Now, everybody in different part of the country has faced different types of threats, but this is unique to this crisis, that everybody is facing the same type of threat. The second aspect, which is there, is the science of communication. You've actually seen the largest inflow of messages, information, advice, news, theories ever. You've never experienced these kind of things which is relevant to you. You see a lot of things which is happening because, okay, there is some change that's happening in different part of a country, and you enjoy those information and news, but that's not the case here. These are information, these are pieces of communication that is all relevant to you as well. So you see some conspiracy theories on, fake news, misinformation, and just trying to publish certain scientific evidence from non-reliable source of information. There are challenges on, how this is actually impacting the way people are responding to some of these news. There's a lot of, trying to say, okay, you drink ginger and honey and you drink ginger and lime, you will have something else, your immunity will be different. You start standing out in the sun, your life is going to be changed. And, all of that. So the communication environment totally changed with this crisis. The other piece is the social context itself. The reason for this pandemic is, the ultimate objective for everybody driving this, managing this crisis, is that slow transmission of this pandemic will actually requires a shift in the behavior, which was not at all driven by anybody else. For example, the social norms of certain, which was prevailing had to change. You're always used to go out in groups. Now we say, okay, social distancing. Washing your hands is a new thing, and you're not used to it, but you have to do it as mandatory thing. And also you saw so many inequalities also coming out in the society, where you wouldn't want to, ideally you were always saying, especially India as a country, definitely love to have a culture which is with people, together with people, but this actually changed quite a bit. You don't want to be with people, you want to stay away from them. There are so many political polarization that's happening, about some people saying, okay, this is what the government should have been done, this is what we would have done. So very, very contradicting ideas and contradicting ideologies coming in, which is impacting the social context. Now, in terms of leadership, what did it actually say? You saw a lot of people emerging, either in your families, in your workplaces, in your local communities, among the nations. So it's a massive change in the leadership style itself. And even in the workplace, if you saw the kind of behaviors that we saw among the leaders was so different from what we've experienced in the past. So all the global organizations opening up, of offering help, doing contributions to support this initiative, and actually the way in which leaders have emerged has actually changed. A lot of trust, and they're actually trying for it, endorsing it. So very different from what we saw as a leadership style, and very different from the conventional styles that we've experienced. And then it comes to the individual and collective interest. So what happens is you're driven by certain norms and certain behaviors typically, but what is right is, and respected and publicly admired, is not what is not what is prevalent in most of the time. So what is happening is there are people who do the right things are publicly admired, and people who are not doing it are actually not admired. So that is actually what individuals, so somebody is actually demonstrating, okay, they wash their hands, they distancing themselves, they respect others, they're becoming considerate, and they are able to provide mechanisms to share the guidelines of how to stay safe, motivating people, avoiding behaviors that can impact others, and without going with any compliance or any legal things. I think I was just watching a news today. People are now imposing the legal aspect of establishing and imposing fines and all of that. But I think so far, the entire lockdown period, it was just to get everybody safe and comfortable and staying them, just keeping them protecting their interests and protecting the interests of the society as a whole. So there was just guidelines provided by the nation's leadership. There were guidelines provided by the organizations. There were guidelines provided by families, by communities. And that is actually for promoting the individual and collective interest. So that is the other behavioral change that we saw. And then the other one is stress and coping. I know personally, I've also been in, a different kind of stress initially, because, my family had to be, in different places. My little daughter had to be outside. So it was a very difficult situation for me. So this is probably the first of its kind for me to experience something which is beyond my reach. So, and then isolating myself, not connecting with people, especially not connecting with my teams, not connecting with my leadership team. And also then the other side is developing some intimate relationships at home, which ideally, when you're really fast, finding that sweet spot to be with your family members, closely connecting with whom you actually wanted to establish connections. And then finally, the concept of creating the healthy mindset. Now, for everybody, I think health became the primary parameter for survival itself, where if my health is lost, everything is lost. So this is how the entire behaviors changed from a COVID situation standpoint for individuals and organizations. And you can take any example in your life and can fit into any of these things and say, where does it actually fit in? And just understand that this has impacted everybody in this world without leaving any stone unturned, to be very honest. Now, what actually are organizations doing at this time is very, very important. Now, organizations are, and just taken from this Deloitte study on what recovery strategies are and what organizations are doing in crisis. So the first thing is that they have to accept the situation, deal with the situation, and manage the continuity. So everybody was trying to get into a business as usual mode. I was reading an article today that, we can continue in a business as usual mode with this kind of remote working, or doing, some part of production going live, some part of production not going live, managing people, emotions, everything. That is fine. I think that was a need of the hour. Any situation or a crisis comes, the first thing is, how do you respond to it? A fire outbreak, how do you respond to it? The next is, how do you recover from it? Now, that is a very important stage, and that's a stage which we're in today, that you have to learn the kind of experiences that you've had, try to engage with that ideas, and also emerge stronger to deal with the situation. That's what even our country is doing. Nations across the world are actually doing that. All the organizations are doing that. Any institution you look at it, they're all trying to recover, trying to learn and emerge stronger. And why is it actually happening? It is actually for preparing for the next normal. So again, another article, the new normal is no normal. So I think I have a fair difference of opinion there. It is not going to be normal, but I think the next normal is actually an opportunity for us. It is an opportunity for us to reflect, to recommit, to re-engage, to rethink and reboot. So these are, again, elements of recovery that any organization or even individuals who are actually going through this kind of a personal behavioral change can experience. So, and why are we doing this? It is actually to integrate the well-being of the organizations and the individual, just to align with the mission and the work that we're doing, and also feel that with individuals and teams, a lot can be achieved, this potential, and also moving, the perspective that everybody or every organization takes is to move boldly to the future. You have to really understand the pandemic, embrace it, learn from it, and move forward. Specific to diversity, this actually brings us to this very interesting dimension, which is recommit ourselves, re-engage ourselves, rethink and reboot. Now, this is from an organization standpoint. Now, the charters of diversity are very, very different in different kinds of organizations. But as organizations, these are, opportunities that is available for individuals to recommit, re-engage, rethink, and reboot. I also want to take your attention to look at what behaviors evolved from individuals and organizations to these crises, which actually promotes diversity. So one is heightened empathy. Now, we are always, everybody loves to have, call it out as empathy as a behavior, but it was not tried and tested in, as an element. But today, I think, while everybody wants to say, okay, it's a good to have empathy, but nobody has experienced it and not demonstrated it. But today, I think we are in a world where everybody is demonstrating that heightened empathy. So even if somebody gives you a call, you're actually kind of very, very, you're not the old person you are. And same thing with our teams, organizations. You're actually very, very different and operating at a very different level of mental framework. The second thing is appreciation for others and experiences. Now, this is a general behavior that is actually coming in. You really know, because you've seen, you're reading, you're experiencing communication, behaviors changes, everything, that there is so much happening around the world. And I was talking to somebody yesterday and he was telling me, I know we are happy if I have our family around, we have food to eat, and there is sufficient basics to survive. So that is the level to which we've come, and we're not interested in doing so much of shopping, going around and meeting friends, what our life used to be, and also being appreciative of people and their lives. Right from, and there was again another example, I was talking to somebody in Bombay and they were telling me that, they don't have anybody to support them, to, there were domestic help coming in, societies do not allow them. So at some point in time, everybody kind of ignored the support of people to that extent, but now that's changing. So everybody has an appreciation for people, values, emotions, etc. personally, and the same beliefs and same behaviors are demonstrated by organizations as well. And then fewer biases. You're never, this is a pandemic, do not have any bias. The virus do not have any bias at all. It is for everybody. Everybody is exposed to this. So that is another behavior that has come in. And the other one is a greater inclusion. You're trying to be more contained and just appreciate others, get everybody together, and just think that, okay, we can create an inclusive environment. So, I feel that there is so much of ecosystem influence on individuals and organizations, which is a very good environment to promote diversity in organizations, or for organizations to be aware that this is the charter that we can do it in a very bold manner. Now, what changes do you think we can expect in because of these behavioral changes? So the context has changed. Individuals are going through the changes. We are actually recovering, and we want to get into a new normal. So what are changes that we can expect? One is the evolution of the invisible workforce. Now, as I said, digital revolution itself wanted to create the distributed workforce or invisible workforce, but now it's become normal that invisible workforce is a category that can actually come in all forms of employment. Whether you're a doctor, whether you are you are into supply chain, whether you are into production, you are into quality. I remember teachers, a lot of them are invisible now. I was actually experiencing one of the sessions for my child, and she was telling that even the practicals are going to be shown over the video. So that is invisible. Now, you cannot stand and see how a chemistry lab actually works. So that's what the teachers are thinking. So the evolution of invisible workforce is actually a tremendous change that we can actually expect in all forms of employment. The other thing is different employment models. Now, the traditional 9-to-6 jobs could change. The kind of a permanent employment will change. Career structures will change. The employment model, we were actually trying to see if you could get gig workers, independent consultants, people who will work for 1 hour, 2 hour, all of that. I think today organizations and individuals are actually not resisting, and they are open to adopt different employment models, and at the same time also organizations are willing to adopt these different employment models. And the thinking is actually coming, what are different types of employment models that we can deploy to build, buy, borrow talent for our survival. The other one is, which is very, very important, is the adaptation to and destigmatization of the remote working. Everybody was actually thinking, can you do your work remotely? And I spent about 2 years working remote in my previous organization, and I've actually learned the good and bad about it. And I was also personally not a great fan, but when I actually saw the productivity not getting impacted and everybody is able to do the job well, emotionally everybody is there to support each other, it was easy. So and that is actually a big change that will happen in the workplace. Then the other thing is the openness about blending your family responsibilities and work. So as earlier, I think work-life balance was what was something that was discussed earlier, but today, and I think work-life integration is a concept that was actually very much prominent in the West, and it was researched very well, but India was not was not much open to that integration. But I think today you are able to integrate work and life. So today, if you're doing a session and your child runs and a child is actually on the screen, it is part of it. You have to accept that, okay, that is life. That's how you blend work. You are in a house, and especially if different houses are there, different rooms are there, but if there are places where there's only 1 or 2 rooms, and then the children have to go around, and there has to be some domestic activity that has to happen. These things are bound to happen, and so the work, which is what you're doing at home, and also the work that's happening at work, has potential to get integrated. So there is an acceptance and openness to blend family responsibilities and family care responsibilities with work. And finally, there is another point which actually that I think which would come in, that hiring is not limited to locations. Say, for example, if I'm actually open to an invisible workforce, I will not restrict to a location like Bangalore. I will cast my net in a much wider manner, looking at different states in the country. India is a large country, and you can reach out to any place and have your employment models work. It's just that I have to just open up my boundaries and not worry about physically my employees being present. So this is a big change that can actually be very much very much conducive for promoting diversity initiatives in organizations. And the environment is, one is that the revolution of the digitization is one, because internet can drive a lot of things which you thought would never happen. And with the pandemic, our mindset has changed, our approach has changed, our ability to respond to some of the stigmas that we had is actually going through a change. So that is what the opportunity is. And I just want to draw your attention to see what are the responses of large organizations to D&I efforts. So I was just reviewing some of the comments and articles of some of the leaders in the D&I in large organizations.
Annu, we can't hear you well.
Okay, can you hear us now? I think it's the same thing. Is it just a small time or?
No, just now. I mean, we lost you for like 2 seconds.
Okay, maybe because
Yeah,
of the
now it's fine.
the internet.
Now it's fine.
Sorry about that. So, what I was actually trying to tell you is like, we are looking at a lot of changes in the workplace. The organizations who were, trying to and hesitant in the past can have greater, opportunities to promote and develop diversity at this point in time. It's just that we just have to understand the employment models, a little bit of change in the mindset, and also trying out and opening up our boundaries of talent attraction, acquisition, and also engagement. Going back to the organization's responses to D&I efforts, there are different kinds of organizations and different stages in which organizations are in, and it is very, very one size doesn't fit for all. Some organizations have really gone far and they have really established a charter, and for them this is just another incident. So for them it's not a big thing. But one universal truth that is emerging is that D&I will be very, very critical. Diversity and inclusion in organizations are going to be critical because that's how the workforce is going to be changing. So that is one understand. The second thing is that the ones who are very strong on their D&I agenda, they will actually be very aggressive and flexing their approaches from in-person to being more virtual. So that is another possibility that organizations can respond to. Now, the other category of organization who do not have a deep-rooted D&I agenda is that they can deprioritize D&I for the short term. But as I said, the universal goal is that it is critical, though it is a short-term correction that they will do by deprioritizing it. It will get back on the agenda sooner or later. Now, the concern that everybody will have today is because of this pandemic, because of the situations, because we are in a recovery mode, will the trend be reversed? Now, we need to really work hard to protect the strides that the organizations have and see what is actually happening. And ensure that, I think, and just believe that, I think it's more of a belief and a personal understanding that everybody in organization should have, that this is a temporary situation and the trend will not get reversed. The trend is actually going to change. Moreover, the opportunities are going to be very, very different. So the traditional jobs might change, but there are so many new jobs that will emerge, and that actually will provide a lot of opportunities, and the trend will not reverse, is my personal point of view. But I think people will have, different organizations can take different stand, but this is the need, this is the ecosystem, this is this is what the reality is, and hence the trends is that organizations have to put this mindset, it's a mindset, D&I mindset, onto their agenda for a sustainable future. Now, just a couple of things. I just have, very few slides to discuss now. But one thing that I found as opportunities for organization is in the entire agenda of a changing workforce, changing lifestyles, changing behaviors. One thing for organizations to look for is, what should we do to improve the health and safety of our people? You are working in a very different ecosystem today. You're not present in office. We don't know what kind of background you come with, but as organizations, we have the responsibility as a priority to see how our people are doing with respect to their health and safety, and also sometimes extended families also, how are they doing, because their emotional individuals' work is actually dependent on the emotional well-being of the family as well. So how are they doing, or how are they doing with respect to their ecosystem? The other element, which is very, very different, is how can we considerate to caregivers? So earlier we were very, very we considered women or anybody who's actually workforce primarily as caregivers. But today there are stereotypes are changing, but majority are caregivers. Now, how do we be considerate to caregivers? I think the pandemic is actually teaching us teaching us what consideration and empathy is. So just take it a little ahead, and how can we be considerate is the next big question and opportunity, basically. And the other one is, how can we create flexible work hours or flexible leave arrangements? Now, we just don't have to, we are actually not sticking to a 9 to 6 now because of the nature of the work, but even in organizational careers, how do you flex this a little bit, giving that opportunity to individuals? And I'm actually doing a research myself on spatial entrapment among women, which is how women are constrained to certain geographic locations and are very skeptical to move out because of some concerns, which actually impacts their financial capacity, their earning power, and they don't shift jobs as much, and hence there's a great wage and wage gap and all that. So, one of the things that a flexibility in workplace can just promote a lot, can actually avoid this, because and if people are geographically tracked to one place and you have to commute to office, this kind of the flexibility and a little bit of being considerate to the role as a caregiver can definitely change the way the employment of women and anybody, actually any kind of diverse population, can actually find a lot of scope in actually finding employability. So and also, it's not only employability but workability. You're able to work. So those are two elements which can actually come in if we provide flexible working hours or flexible leave arrangements. And the other one is, how do we create inclusion and career development for marginalized employees? Now, if your population of, say, you're diverse, there's a traditional standard workforce, and there are these marginal workforces which is small in number. Very rarely organizations think about career strategies for them. So there is an opportunity for organizations to think and focus on career development strategies for these marginalized employees, so that everybody is taken care of, their aspirations are met, their employability is actually taken care of, and there is success in individuals' careers. So that is what the opportunities for organizations are, and it actually opens up organizations to pause and look at a very different strategy for the diverse workforce which is in organizations. It also calls for a shift in HR responsibilities. HR, as organizations driving HR, our job will be to actually create a talent that is innovative, creative, stable, and agile. So it is not that by focusing on diversity as an agenda, we're actually missing out on anything, but we should look at, are we finding talent that is innovative, creative, stable, and agile? So that is our entire mission in as HR, as human resources function worldwide. So this is not it's not a transactional job, because you're in a very different world where you need a different type of skills. So see how we can get that kind of talent. The second thing is, how do you ensure that the company and the community is connected? Because whatever you do, especially when you're in a remote environment or you are an invisible workforce, it is very difficult to establish the connection with the community. For example, we are in healthcare, and any job that we do is actually impacting the life of individuals. So every code that we write will actually be if it is right, it is actually going to impact the life of an individual. So that is the connection that any employee, any individual in our organization should have when they are actually working. So that is the connection that human resources has to take ownership to establish the connection. The third thing is, we are in a world of a lot of disruptions and a lot of transformations. And in spite of that, we want to drive positive outcomes, which is impacting the society. So a lot of importance, there is a lot of connection between the human capital, the ecosystem, which is the society, and organization. So how do you drive the efforts of all three to ensure that society benefits by churning out right organizations with the right approach, individuals with the right mindset? So that is what
the HR responsibilities probably will go through a shift. And everybody talks about organizational culture. Definitely in invisible workforce or organizations which are very diverse, the culture is actually going to change. The beliefs, the experience is actually going to be very, very different. So HR as a function has the ability, also has the responsibility to co-architect the culture with the business leaders, with the CEOs and CXOs, to ensure that the beauty of the organization is not lost by creating this kind of a workforce. And finally, there is also how to use technology, to be at the forefront of deploying technology to ensure that all what you're doing is actually giving you that kind of results in terms of efficiency, and also trying to be providing the right kind of experience even after changing these ecosystem of in our workplaces. So HR has a lot of responsibilities in this current workplace, because as I said, we are in the industrial revolution, which is the fourth industrial revolution, driven by technology and internet, and our workforce is different. We've been challenged with a pandemic which is beyond our control. There are behavioral changes that has happened. There is a time for us to recover, reboot, and rethink about what we can do. And the time is actually now to create the next normal for organizations to survive, and also to explore the unleash the potential, to be very honest. So that is what the opportunities, and I have my lightning slide. I want to thank you for this time, and also wanted to just take this quote: you cannot undo the moves, but you can make the next step better. So all what you've done so far in organizations or as individuals, what is gone is gone. What has happened, but in this recovery mode, we can unlearn, relearn, and build what we wanted to build in an ideal situation, and the time is now. Thank you so much once again for being very patiently listening to me, and it's my pleasure once again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Annu.
Yeah, do you have time for questions? Or
yeah, we have about 7 questions that have come in on the chat window. I've got them. Let's take questions now. Please raise your hands if you have any questions, and I'll unmute you, or you could type on the chat window as well. So the first question is, in the time of crisis, how can I convince the business side of my organization to stay committed to a diversity agenda?
So I said, this is it's a universal truth that you need to be an inclusive organization, because that's how the world is actually moving. So you can be aggressive on your agenda. You can also deprioritize it for now, and then look at it as a long-term agenda, and then start planning for it. So crisis is, you can definitely bring that onto the agenda now, because that's an imperative of organizations, that if you want to get X work done. Now, this is also, diversity is not only on gender. See, for example, you're looking at people from different cultures. I want to get into a special job, and it's not available here, but I find that somebody is available in some part of say I'm just telling in some part of the country, and how do I get that? That is also a way of being open to diversity. How do I get talent from there? So that is actually the need. So if you have any opportunity, it is just using those right nudges and asking business to explore an opportunity like this, and thereby get diversity on the agenda. And also just think that it's not only gender. Gender is just one, but there are so many other ways of trying to promote diversity. So that actually is the first conviction that we should have. Maybe you're doing diversity in some way or the other, but you're not, especially a country like India, we are a mix of diverse cultures. So that itself is a way to look at it. So if that is the case, then you just have to really understand what is that you want to define as diverse, and then try to get into the conviction mode. So first is understanding what does diversity mean to you as an organization, and then go into the conviction mode.
Okay. The second question is also related to this. What can I do to improve diversity in my company, especially when we're not hiring now?
Yeah, so as I said, you can create plans for the future. If you are a growing organization, if you have attrition, definitely you will hire at some point in time. And the time is, as I said, recovery is actually to just understand and learn and unlearn the fundamentals. So if you're not hiring now, it does not mean that you will not hire at all. You will hire, but ensure that your charter is ready with your plans, so that once you're ready to hire, you have this also as a priority to look for. And the supply of talent will also evolve by the time. So right now you're not hiring does not mean that it's the end to the organization. If any organization has to survive, there should be some amount of recruiting that should happen. So it's just a time. It's a temporal effect, I would say. It will change, and it is at that point in time that whatever unlearnings or whatever things you've learned now can actually be applied. So that is how I would tackle it.
Okay. The next one is, how do I incorporate gig roles into a company's corporate structure?
Okay. So in any talent strategy today, it is build, borrow, bind, buy. So gig workers will definitely be on either a borrow mode. You have to borrow that. So you should have a very good borrow strategy, that when you need them, you really have to, they are available. Now, there are platforms that is available on gig workers. There are organizations who can provide gig workers. But I would also say, as an individual, we should also find an ecosystem to employ people for hours, employ people for days. Crunching the number of working hours, etc., or just create assignments. For example, when you're actually having a backfill position coming up, and it's just that this is not going to survive for long, and you can just have a discussion with your business leader and say, hey, this is an option that's available. Do you want to look at somebody for a couple of hours? And the investment is also going to be very minimal there. That you are just trying to cut, just divide the bigger problem into smaller problems. So that is the way you can actually look at promoting gig workers. There are two things. One is supply of gig workers should also go up. That is what we have to really look at. Platforms, or not platforms, but you should look at pools there where you can get gig workers. Maybe there's a lot of orientation that you should do, especially with the current ecosystem where there's so much of talent uncertainties, career uncertainties. There is naturally going to be a pool that's going to be available, though not in large numbers. So the traditional organizational careers might change, the outlook might change. So there would be a supply. We have to start afresh. You can't just start with a 10% of your workforce as a gig. Maybe it's just 1 or 2 hires and then try to build on it. But that is how the world is going to be. So better late than never. We have to make that changes. Large organizations have tried and tested it. They're doing it, but small size and medium sized organizations are still grappling with their traditional employment models, and hence looking for opportunities to see where you can actually bring them into the workforce.
Now, the next one is also more or less the same. How do I get internal buy-in to increase women gig workforce in my company?
So one is, if you have a need for gig workers, gender is not a thing. It's not a matter. First you have to confirm that you have a need for gig workers. Once that is identified, then the pool is out there. You really have to be in an outbound search mode to convince and to create that mindset in individuals. You come and work for a couple of hours, or and that's good for you. There's a lot of convincing that you need to do also, because this is not an accepted employment model, but it is becoming popular. So one is, you should have a confirmed need. If you have a need to employ gig workers, then diversity will actually come into place, and it will not that people will apply to you because they are gig workers like what you see in your regular employment. You really have to reach out to individuals who are available there and offer this. It's like try before you buy. Try this model in some places and see that you have your own learnings. But once you try it out, I think you will realize that it's a good model to work for specific initiatives that you want to drive. Or for example, you want to do some branding efforts, or you have to do some creative that you want to develop. And there are some people available. Come and work for 2 hours, decide on their rates, get into the employment contract, ensure that they are available, and then that's how you start with. And and it can also be of low-end jobs and even high-end jobs. There are a lot of individuals who are available out there who can come in and work for 2 hours, 3 hours because of whatever reasons. We just have to identify them. Create that kind of a platform, and also openly be available that, we're just saying, okay, I'm going to give you 100, full-time employment. Nobody's actually advertising that, okay, I'm open to hire somebody for 3 hours. Once that is actually available there, and if your employment agreements are in place, I don't think it is going to be difficult.
Yeah. The next one's, what are the policies that the companies need to put in place to increase female workforce?
So, see, one is that I am, not a great fan of calling it a female workforce. Everybody's a workforce. It's a gender is a little, looking at different. So what do women want? That is something that, we really have to understand. Flexibility is what everybody tells. So a little bit of flexibility in terms of time, in terms of leave, in terms of availability, etc. That is one thing. The second thing is that, talent management programs specifically for, specifically for women, especially if you're small in number, you have to do a fact finding of where your organization lies with respect to the base headcount. If you're mid, I know for sure that entry level, you can definitely look at it, but the biggest challenge is at the mid level and the senior level. So identify what the baseline is. There is a lot of, you have to define some kind of target for yourself, that when I'm hiring people, I will intentionally first look at, women to come in. That's one thing. And women also are not very open in, job changes, etc. So they were also very, very skeptical of, they're very careful in making the career changes. So there's a lot of convincing that we have to do to make them apply. So if you see, the cost of displacement of women is very high compared to men. And so recruiters have this natural tendency to look at the easier win and say, okay, I have an opportunity. So women will be like, I will think and come back to you. By the time there are 2 other people who say, hey, I'm willing to come, what are the job responsibilities? So there's a little bit of investment that we have to make at our end to convince and get women. That is one. And for women population per se, they should also be, very, they should also be slightly risk averse, I would say, be open to challenges and say, we cannot sit back and say, oh, this diversity and I want to just come into workforce. What are you doing to make that change? So that is also a question that I would ask women to say, how many applications, how many of them are actually applying for a job? Very few people. So, it's a two-way connection, I would say, that you will reach out to them. They should also be open to explore opportunities if they think that their careers are becoming stagnant.
Okay, and the last one here. There are women who apply after a long break in their careers. How do I show the company helping them upskill is good for the bottom line?
So, see, there are 2 ways of looking at it. There are people who apply after a long break. Now, I'm of the opinion that if your careers are sustainable, when I say that sustainable, there are some skills that individuals acquire during breaks. The funny part is that we never bother to ask anybody, what did you do during your break? That is the reality in any workplace. So as recruiters, as HR, we just look at, okay, if there's a break, let's look at, even in the AI that is built into our screening, we look at successful careers as consistent careers. They don't look at people with breaks. So it's a conscious effort to look at breaks and understand what they did during those breaks. And I'm telling you that, breaks can be done by anybody. Today, career breaks are going to be the norm. So if somebody has taken a long break, the question for all of us is, what did they do during the break? One is child care, one is sibling care or parent care. Obviously, if you're a caregiver, you have all of these responsibilities, but did you acquire some skills? And also there's a responsibility on individuals, women. They cannot sit idle and say, okay, I want to come back to work and I will just take care of my child all throughout. There are a lot of upskilling opportunities today available. You just have to spend 2 hours or whatever time you have to manage or learn. So if you do that, definitely when you come back to your career, you will definitely be able to join the league, though there would be some kind of adjustments that you have to make personally, but the time will actually tell you that the skill that you acquired during that time will actually work in your favor once you come back to work. So the answer to your question is upskilling is is possible only if you've also done some bit of effort for yourself to see that you're ready to learn. And that is what as HR our job is, to ask them, what did you do during your break? And that is some information that can help business to get convinced that this individual has potential, has demonstrated that during this break, and hence considering is not it's not bad. And I think I'm not a great fan of organizations. Okay, let's look at everybody who's taken a break and come and just put them into a try before you buy mode, and then give them a career which is of low value and then try to build them. Absolutely no. You can definitely get them straight away. I think spending time with the child, family, so many managerial skills and personal skills have been accumulated. Human capital is not deteriorating by the break. If you've actually invested in right pockets, it's actually going to accumulate. So that is a conviction that organizations should have, and that will help you build a strong case to get people back to work.
Annu, thanks for a wonderful session and giving us your perspective on recovery strategies for organization in crisis and how behaviors have evolved from COVID crisis that could promote diversity in organizations and also choice of different employment models. And I would also like to thank all of you who have attended this masterclass, and I hope that you will take away some essential points. Thank you very much, Annu.
Thanks, Sanjita. My pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Bye.